today with John Mancino in California, a veteran political analyst and activist in the Los Angeles area. And we're going to talk to him today about the issue of voter ID, which has roiled political waters as Republicans have introduced in various states of laws that require voters to present photo identification. In turn, they've been accused by Democrats of actually serving to prevent certain groups from voting. There's a suit going on right now between the Department of Justice and Florida, where the Department of Justice, led by the Obama administration, contends that thousands of voters may be prevented from going to the polls this year. John, what's your experience of this in California?
15 states now have voter ID requirements. However, the Obama administration, through Attorney General Eric Holder, has now begun filing lawsuits. First one being Texas, Florida. And so there's been a lot of controversy created as a result. The charge, as you mentioned, is that it disenfranchises minority voters. I find that to be ironic because the same Attorney General, in order to visit him, requires you to present a photo ID to get through his doors. And Michelle Obama, at her recent June book signing, required people not only to purchase her book at that actual signing, they also had to present a voter ID, photo ID, in order to get through and actually have an autograph. So it just seems to be the epitome of hypocrisy to me. Give you one example. In the Florida election recently, election officials indicated that they have discovered 180,000 fraudulent votes. And that to me is ironic and outrageous as well. So I think that if you look at the hypocrisy on various levels, this issue has been pushed primarily by Democrats, and yet at this year's Democratic convention, you are going to be required, even the press is going to be required to present a photo ID in addition to their press pass, and press credentials. So I believe that this whole thing is really a smokescreen created with the intent. My personal belief is it's with the intent to garner any vote they can, whether it's legal or otherwise.
Now, I know in the state of Michigan, which had its primary elections, people were presenting their photo IDs at the polls. Have you noticed any resistance to presenting IDs in your state?
Absolutely. Here in California, in all of the last 50 years, all but the last 50 years, the Democratic, the legislation has been controlled by Democrats in all but 2 of those years, and it's all voter ID laws here are basically dead in the water at the time they're introduced. They're not going to go anywhere here, as in several other states, but I will say that voters are getting tired of this because there's been numerous cases of fraud charged throughout the country. I can't think of a state where there hasn't been. Matter of fact, I was involved in a campaign in 2008. It was a state assembly campaign, and I did some investigation and found that in one district, there were 334 people registered to vote in 21 households. One address on San Pedro Street had 56 Democrats registered under the same household. Those people voted in that election. And another address on Main Street, another 27 Democrats registered in that household. This is blatant, and nobody's doing anything about it. I reported it to the registrar recorder. He promised he would investigate. Never heard one word from him. Followed up with emails. Never got a response from him. They do not want to respond. And out of these 334, just in this one election, in this one assembly district, 38 of them were declined to state voters. Not a single Republican was registered in these households.
Now, John, excuse me, but have there been any demonstrations, popular demonstrations, repudiating voter IDs, or has this been mostly a partisan issue?
I believe it's a partisan issue, and I think it's by design. I truly believe, and there's been a number of studies that show that those folks that vote illegally in this country are voting overwhelmingly for Democratic candidates.
Can you cite any of this, John? Can you cite any of the studies?
Well, there was one here in California back in the late 90s in which a congressman actually got voted out of office, and there were identified initially 5,000 votes that were suspect. They investigated 1,500 of the 5,000, found 900, or just under 900 of them, to be illegal, dead people. People that didn't live at the address that they gave in their registration application, people that didn't exist, period, criminals, violent felons that had been paroled. It's not something that is new. This has been going on literally for a couple of decades now, and I believe that it's not being pursued by law enforcement, and certainly not being pursued by the Justice Department of Washington.
Now, there have been cases, for example, in Pennsylvania, where there were actually more ballots cast than there were registered voters. Has that been the case in any place that you know of in California?
I'm sure it is. As a matter of fact, there's been more than one congressional district, as well as state senate and assembly districts, where there's been more votes cast than there are actual registrants in those particular districts. But again, getting back to the hypocrisy side of this thing, when you have to have a photo ID, you have to present a photo ID to get on a Greyhound bus these days in many states, to board an airline, to even take an SAT or an ACT test to get into a college or a university. It's really sad and outrageous that you can go to a polling place and vote without even proving that you're a United States citizen. I think it's just the height of hypocrisy, and I think if something isn't done about it, our elections are going to be fraudulent for years and years to come.
Thank you, John, and thank you for weighing in on this important topic as we advance towards the elections in November. Thanks again.